we do want to get additional perspective now from Jonathan Laurence, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and author of The Emancipation of Europe's Muslims. Thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it. I'm wondering your thoughts on all that you have seen taking place just in the last several days, and also what it means for France moving forward as a society.
Well, it's an extremely difficult time for French Muslims, especially as a new minority that have not yet entirely found their place politically or even in terms of being able to live their religious lives fully. And this is going to set back the clock, I think, a lot on majority-minority relations.
There also is the concern among many French people I've talked to today about this continuing to drive a wedge further between Muslim society in France and the rest of society. Politically a wedge, socially a wedge that already exists. And in some efforts, that's really part of something that terrorists want to have happen. They want there to be this wedge between the groups. They want there to be this idea of being a war against the religion of Islam, which feeds into the notion a lot of these terrorists are trying to push.
That's exactly right. They want to polarize. They want to divide. And that is why it's so striking that one of the first things that happened during today's Friday prayers, for example, in Bordeaux, was a call by the main imam there to participate in Sunday's National Unity March. One of the first delegations to arrive right here, before even the Interior Ministry arrived, was a delegation from one of the major French Muslim federations. So I think they're very careful about avoiding any of those traps.
Although we have seen in a number of Western European countries, new immigrants, particularly from Muslim countries, not making as much effort to assimilate into the larger population. We've seen that in Sweden, obviously in England, here in France, as one of the guests earlier was talking about, there are kind of no-go zones where police don't even really go into. And again, it does cut both ways. There have been criticisms of the French's governments, prior governments, and even current ones, reaching out to Muslim communities. But there is this lack of assimilation in many quarters.
Well, I think we have to distinguish between ethnic enclaves on the one hand, we're familiar with those from the United States, Little Italy, Chinatown, and no-go zones on the other, which has to do with the rule of law actually stopping at the borders of certain neighborhoods. Those are very different. I think that when it comes to new migrant populations, it's quite natural that they choose to congregate together. They have shops that remind them of the country of origin. They share a language, perhaps prayer spaces. The question is over time whether or not there's opportunity to get out if they want to. And so making sure that that's not a solid line drawn around them, but rather a dotted line, which they could leave if they want to, but also which they could identify with their community if that's what they choose. And I think that a lot of French Muslims don't feel that they can do so comfortably, say that they're Muslim and French and proud to be so.
Critical days in the days ahead and weeks and months ahead. Jonathan Laurence, I appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much.